This is the Monimoto 9, updated for 2024 and even better than ever. It's more convenient, it's easier to hide, and as a result it's more secure. So how have they done it? Well, in this video we'll go through absolutely everything that you need to know. But before we get started, a huge thanks to Monimoto for supporting the channel by sponsoring this video. That said, they've allowed us to be fully transparent in this video, so our views on the product remain our own. So let's take a quick look at what you get inside the box. And you'll find some instructions along with the device itself, the key fob, and a few zip ties so you can secure the device inside your bike. Now this has a little rubber bung in the end of the device there that opens up the charging port, so you'll need to whip that out so you can charge it up. And inside the key fob you've also got a CR2032 battery, so you need to open this up, then pull out this tab as part of the activation process so that the battery switches on the fob. It's worth pointing out there's an eSIM built into this tracker, so there's no separate SIM that needs putting in. And so once you've charged the tracker, all you need to do is download the Monimoto app, follow the instructions in here to get started.
I mean, come on, what's the first thing that you'd do if you'd stolen a bike and you didn't want to get caught? You'd check for a tracker and make sure you got rid of it. Now, some trackers are wired into the battery, so that's going to make them quite a bit easier to trace back through the cables and get rid of. But that's one of the key features of the Monimoto system, is that it runs off its own internal battery, and so it's much easier to stash away somewhere without any obvious clues.
Now naturally, to run for a decent amount of time without being tethered to the battery, it does have to be quite energy efficient, and that's where this key fob comes into play. If it's within close range of the bike, the tracker is disarmed, so you can move the bike and ride it without raising the alarm. Then when you park up and wander off, because the key fob is away from the bike, the tracker is armed. But hopefully most of the time the bike isn't being moved when it's parked, and so again the tracker isn't really using a great deal of power.
So let's say you've left the keys and fob at home or inside the office. Now, if someone was to move your bike or try and push it away or try and start it, that's when it's going to fire up and use its data connection to call your phone. And then you can follow the live location in the Monimoto app and you'll get an update every 5 minutes. And it can do that for several days, they say. Now, with that phone call from Monimoto, I'd make sure that that number is added to your contacts and also excluded from anything like do not disturb mode, so that you can guarantee the notification is going to reach you even if it's at night. And look, the app is super easy to use when it comes to locating your bike. It's a version of Google Maps with a little pin for your particular location, and that eSIM in the tracker also works internationally, so even if your bike gets nicked and taken abroad, you'll still know where it is. And there's a full list of all the countries that they support on the Monimoto website.
I guess what this means is that this isn't really one of those trackers that's intended to constantly give you live updates. On top of that, it isn't really going to give you loads of stats for your riding and lean angles and acceleration and lap times and all that sort of thing. Those sorts of GPS trackers need much more power, whereas the Monimoto is just chilling in the background, being super efficient and stealthy, ready to spring into action should your bike be moved when you're not around. This efficiency is how they managed to get 12 months of operation just off the internal battery. Now admittedly that is down on the previous generation Monimoto 7, that one lasts for about 2 years. But firstly, this new device is quite a bit smaller, and secondly, as I've mentioned, it is USB-C chargeable, whereas the previous gen device required 2 AA batteries. Now which is better probably comes down to personal preference, but for me, I think I'd rather be able to charge it over USB, and you do get plenty of warning because you get the low battery alerts through the app, so it's not really like you're going to get caught out. So yeah, I think I can probably cope with having to do that once a year, and it only takes 1.5 hours at room temperature for a full charge, although if you are charging it at less than 15 degrees, sort of in your garage for example, it charges slower just to preserve the battery's health, so it can take up to 6 hours. That all said, if you do prefer the AA's and the ease of just swapping them instantly, and the fact that you get double the battery life,
I guess the Monimoto 7 is still on sale, so you could always pick up one of those.
Before you do that though, there are a couple of other advantages to this Monimoto 9 that you should be aware of. One is the size. If you put them side by side, you can see there's a huge reduction, and also there's a significant reduction in weight. The key thing here is that it will make the new device easier to hide in more secluded parts of your bike, and that's really the most important thing to install in a tracker, to put it somewhere that it won't be found.
And clearly, with a little device like this versus the previous generation, you've got more chance of finding those little gaps that are harder to spot. As for where you put it, well, it really depends on the bike, but generally I'd avoid under the seat because that's realistically the first place that someone's going to look. And also, you probably don't want it too buried away under metals and things like that because you want it to get a decent GPS signal. I think the ideal is maybe some plastic bodywork like this that you might have to work fairly hard to pop off, but realistically, once you've got it stashed in there, it's going to take a fairly thorough inspection of the bike to seek it out.
Next up, this thing has an even higher ingress protection or IP rating. The Monimoto 7 had an IP rating of 65, with the 6 denoting that it's dust tight and the 5 that it's able to withstand a water jet without ingress. But the Monimoto 9 is now 68 rated, so again, it's dust proof, but the 8 means that it can withstand being fully submerged in water to a moderate depth for prolonged periods of time.
Now, of course, that just means you can feel a little more reassured when you're cleaning your bike, but then also, if you want to hide the tracker that's somewhere near a source of road spray, then again, you've got no concerns. So not only should this make the device more hardy, but yet again, it gives you more options in terms of where you want to hide it.
This new device comes in at £149 in the UK, so that's £20 more than the previous generation. But for me, for the convenience of the USB charging and the ability to stash it more discreetly, I'd say it's worth it if you choose in between the two. If you've already got a Monimoto 7, I wouldn't say it's necessarily an immediate upgrade unless there's a particular place on the bike you've been wanting to hide the tracker and it won't fit, or you really want USB charging. On top of that, I should also point out that there's a £36 a year subscription fee for the data services, and this is administered through the app, although the first 2 months are free.
Now, we've reviewed trackers in the past, and one of the common questions that comes up in the comments of those videos is whether it's worth spending money on a dedicated motorcycle tracker or whether you could just use something like an AirTag and save a fair bit of cash. And the thing is, I absolutely love using AirTags to track stuff like my camera bag, and it really does give you a bit of peace of mind, and they're also super convenient and they are quite cheap. But the thing is, they've got some significant drawbacks. If someone stole your bike and they've got an iPhone, they will get an alert to say that an unrecognized AirTag is traveling with them, so they know they either need to ditch the bike or find it and get rid of it. Then there's the fact that they get their location from handshakes with phones, so if someone dumps your bike somewhere remote, like somewhere pretty rural, if the general public isn't passing by with their iPhones, then you won't get a location for your bike. That's exactly why I think for something as valuable as a motorcycle, I also use Monimoto in my van as well, it's just worth paying the money for because they're designed to go undetected and also to give you a location from the GPS. And even if it can't get a GPS location, it's got other tech to fall back on to try and let you know where your pride and joy is located. Like I say, I've been using the Monimoto 7 on a couple of vehicles that we own for a couple of years now, and what I really like about them is the fact that I've just got that peace of mind. I barely ever think about using them, but I know that if I haven't got a notification on my phone, then everything's fine. And if I ever did get a call, I'd be super confident about knowing where they're located. So this new Monimoto 9 effectively delivers the same concept, just with that extra convenience of the USB-C charging and the smaller package, which means it's even easier to install and hide away.
As always though, if you've got any questions about it, please do leave them in the comments below. And if you want to watch my full guide to the previous gen device, then I'll put it on the screen now so you can give it a click and give it a watch. Hit subscribe if you've not already to see more of the latest motorcycle tech guides like this right here on YouTube. Many thanks for watching today, and we'll catch you in the next video.